Be gentle on me because I leave the cupboards open. I'm going to be gentle on you when you chew too loudly because we're in confined quarters and this is the time when we need to cut each other the most amount of slack.
We're all having a hard time at home, but working mothers are facing new struggles with their mental health. We recently asked members across the country to tell us how they're feeling. The results show that working mothers are struggling. Before this pandemic, less than half of working moms were stressed at home. Now that number is over 60%. One of the main reasons they cite for this stress is a lack of support from both their managers at work as well as their partners inside the home. In fact, a LinkedIn survey found that 60% of employers are not allowing their workers to change their schedules to take care of children during this time. So to get some advice on how to navigate this, we spoke with a very famous working mom who's always been honest about her mental health and wellness.
I'm incredibly honest with my children about everything, about Santa Claus, about sex, about daddy's sobriety, mommy's depression and anxiety. But there is, I think, those things that feel like big, heavy topics, and COVID-19 is one of them. It can cause parents and adults to become paralyzed.
If you don't know Kristen Bell, she's an actress known for many roles in The Good Place, Frozen, as well as Forgetting Sarah Marshall. She's also the mother to 2 children who are 5 and 7, and she's feeling stressed out right now too.
If I had to analyze how stressed I was about my life or my kids, my world before and after, I'd say I was moderately stressed before the pandemic of like, oh, okay, make sure everyone gets to school on time, make sure this gets done, make sure this gets done. And then when the pandemic hit, it was almost more because we had no outside sources to rely on. The first 2 weeks, I was trying to meet everyone's needs in my household. We'll just make sure everyone's happy because this is a scary time. Then I realized I was completely losing myself. And in fact, it's been quite comforting to me to make my world a little bit smaller and have us decide what we do as a group in the evenings or play a game as opposed to having some event to run off to and all these sort of other variables that could cause stress.
The number one reason women are citing that they're stressed out right now is the added responsibility of having to teach their kids in the home. The second is just a lack of work-life boundaries right now. It was the first thing parents flooded social media about, and months later, they're still stressed out.
Trying to teach my first grader and my 5-year-old was sitting on my shoulders and the dogs were in my lap. And it was just like, it was so uncomfortable.
And then add to that an age-old problem. How do you divvy up responsibilities in the home while still maintaining close relationships with those around you, all in closed quarters? LinkedIn found that less than half of 2-parent households have had conversations with their partners about splitting up responsibilities at home.
What's interesting is my husband and I were fighting, like just marital fighting right before this pandemic, like a lot. And it was rough. And then the pandemic hit and we couldn't leave the house and we had to watch each other eat and go to sleep together and brush our teeth. And it was like, he was the most annoying person in the world to me and I was the most annoying person to him. Then we finally sat down, hashed everything out. So we settled on a pretty respectful way of handling this transference of who does what, because sometimes when I have an interview like this, I'll say, I can't do it today. Can you handle homeschooling? And he will say yes. And there have been points where I've been nervous to ask him to take over some of the housework, or I felt like I couldn't. And you know, these sit-down conversations in marriages happen to everyone.
Belle says it's also important during this time to have honest conversations with your children. It's why she co-wrote a children's book called The World Needs More Purple People. And it's about having your children make sure that they're asking questions and feeling confident. But she wrote the book before this pandemic, and there are some things that she said that she would tweak.
When the pandemic hit, I was the mom that made the color-coded schedule and I put it up on the wall. And for a week, I made everyone brilliantly miserable by saying, no, it's art time. No, it's academic time. My kids were miserable. And after a week, I asked them to rip it up. And I said, the lesson we're looking at here, when you rip up this beautiful color-coded schedule mommy made, is that if you have a plan that's making everyone miserable, you pivot. So I think I would have figured out how to slide that into the book because it's been a heavy lesson for me. I often think I have the right idea and it's great. You have to understand that everybody's different and that they learn in different ways.
And learning how to balance work with life at home isn't new, but Bell is hopeful that coming out of this pandemic, things will be more equitable for working women and men too.
You really have to look around you and ask the questions of, do you feel like I contribute enough? Do you feel like this is equitable? Do you feel like you do 50% and I do 50%? And I think with the time that people are spending at home right now, they have at least the opportunity to ask those questions.